Strong Enough merch is now available. Go to strongenoughpod.com and see all the things that you can get to show your strong enough pride, as well as remind people and yourself that you are strong enough and you are worth it. Welcome to the Strong Enough podcast, where we talk about the challenges and celebrate the triumphs of people just like you. I'm your host, Claudia. Today's guest is going to share about her journey with Crohn's disease. She's also going to talk about what led her to reading and writing spicy romance novels. And she's going to share what we can expect from her very first release, Tempted by Eden. Please help me welcome Jade May. Jade, how are you doing today?
I'm well, thank you, Claudia. How are you?
I am well, and for the people that know me, they know I'm really well because I love a good accent, and you are bringing one of the best today. So if nothing more than to hear you speak, I'm stoked for this conversation today.
That's hilarious. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I know that we have a lot of very interesting and some very exciting things to talk about. So I would love it if you would tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'd love to. So, hi everyone. I'm Jade May. I'm a romance author and a chronic illness advocate. So, as you can tell from my accent, I'm Australian. I live in Sydney with my wonderful husband and my beautiful baby boy who's just turned 5. I'm a marketer by day and I moonlight as an author at night. So, I mostly write angst-filled romances that are hot and heavy with a little bit of kick, but it always culminates in a happy ending. My debut novel is called Tempted by Eden and it's releasing in October. So that's a little bit about me.
I'm excited to talk about several of these things. So I'm going to start with probably what's going to be the least fun. I would love to talk about your chronic illness and how you've dealt with that because I also live with chronic illness. I know a lot of our viewers and listeners also live with different chronic illnesses. So will you talk a little bit about your journey through your chronic illness and how you deal with that today?
Yeah, so I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease at a very tender age of 13, so right on the cusp of becoming a teenager. And for those who don't know what Crohn's disease is, it's basically an autoimmune disease. It's a type of inflammatory bowel disease, so it can happen and occur anywhere on your digestive tract, so anywhere from your mouth to your anus. But in saying that, it usually localizes in your small intestine. So what happens is your immune system attacks your lining of your bowel, so it makes it inflamed and makes it thick, and then which results in the narrowing of the bowel. So it stops anything from passing through, and that usually results in a bowel obstruction. So it's very excruciating. Some of the symptoms of Crohn's sufferers is obviously abdominal pain, you've got diarrhea and vomiting and fatigue, and then you've got some of the smaller lesser known symptoms that are quite annoying. So you've got mouth ulcers and skin rashes and joint pain. You can also have, fissures and anal bleeding. Unfortunately, I also suffer from nosebleeds. So having nosebleeds and bleeding from both ends is not fun at all. Um, so there's, a whole range of symptoms. In all the literature that's out there, they do say death is very, very rare with Crohn's disease, but I'm going to mention it because unfortunately I came very close to death after one of my surgeries. I had a lot of complications. So I am going to mention it because out there it says, you won't even get close to that. It's very, very rare. It won't happen. So unfortunately, you did come very close for me. So about 100,000 people in Australia live with Crohn's and colitis, and I looked it up for you guys in America, and it's 1 in 100 get diagnosed with Crohn's. So it's actually a lot more common than what you think. And for me, being diagnosed at, like I said, at such a young age, like right on the cusp of becoming a woman, I actually missed out on a lot of the important milestones that teenagers get to experience. Like I missed out on hanging out with my friends, I missed out on dating, I missed out on that first awkward kiss, the first time for intimacy around that period. So, as other teenagers were, trying a cigarette for the first time, sipping their first, taste of alcohol and losing their virginities. My teenage years revolved around, in and out of hospitals, surgeries, MRIs, and being poked and prodded, but in a medical sense, not in the fun way. Um, so that was my teenage years. That was my childhood, and looking back now, all of that severely affected my personal relationships now because caused by low self-esteem and really bad body image, and it basically stunted my social development and my growth because all of that I missed out, and I didn't get to do that until much, much later. Um, so that was my journey as a teenager. Yeah.
You know, you talked about being diagnosed with this as a teenager. And as you mentioned, that is the time when girls are learning to hopefully appreciate their bodies and learn about sexuality and experience those things. Maybe not at 13, but in their teen years, generally speaking. How difficult was it for you not only to just have a chronic illness, but now we got one that involves diarrhea? So, like, there is nothing sexy about that. How difficult did that make it for you as a teen girl to feel beautiful and sexy?
Yeah, it's so difficult, and there's not enough support out there for that. Um, I One of my first surgeries was supposed to be by keyhole, so laparoscopically. So it was supposed to be something that was really quick, a 7-day stay in hospital, and I was going to recover and was going to be fine. Unfortunately, when I woke up from my surgery, I had been fully opened up. So that means right from under my boobs all the way down to my pubic bone. I had looked like a gutted fish. And I was devastated because at such a young age, all you think about is your looks and your body. I absolutely hated my body at that time. So it was really hard to come to terms um, with that and to be able to experience dating. And it's only now, when I'm 38, after years of therapy, that I've come to terms with, to improve my self esteem and stop that negative self talk and to actually love my body and that it did the best that it could. And yeah, and like you said, Crohn's disease is not media friendly. There's just no, doesn't get any airtime because it's not sexy. It is not sexy. There's nothing sexy about, you know, wind, diarrhea. It's just not. And I know the Crohn's colitis here in Australia had a marketing campaign where their slogan was "Flush the stigma." It was good, it was cute, but at the same time, it did nothing to help the perception of it. And Crohn's sufferers have to deal with having bowel accidents when they're being intimate with someone. So that's constantly playing on your mind. And as you know, when you're intimate, if you're not in the moment, you're not present, and you're thinking about what's happening with your body and trying to hold it in, it takes you completely out of the moment, and there's no way that you're going to reach that big O, like at all. Like it just takes you out of the moment. And it takes time and it takes trust with your partner to be able to let go of that fear. So for me, if you think about your first sexual experience, your first time having intercourse, now think about that if you had a colostomy bag. It just adds a whole new layer of awkwardness and complications to your first time. So, yeah, honestly, like it's taken years of therapy to be able to be happy with my body. Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about marketing, since that is what you do by day. And what I want to talk about is the fact that in our society, anyway, there has been a push over the last few years to show more body types when it comes to lingerie and swimsuit ads and things like that. So we're seeing different shapes and sizes of women and men, But as I'm thinking about it, I don't know that we're seeing a lot of women or men with scars, a lot of surgical scars and a lot of colostomy bags or, other accoutrement that you may be carrying around with you. So, is it different in Australia? Are you guys seeing more people that look like you in ads? Or is that a place we still need to get to?
No, we're the same as America. There is absolutely no representation of people with disabilities in campaigns or in any sort of mainstream media, whether it's TV or film or magazines. It absolutely gets no representation. And it's kind of funny. I'm not sure if you guys have the same sort of phenomenon, but people with a disability aren't seen as sexual beings. It's this weird phenomenon that for some reason, if you have a disability, you're seen as someone that is asexual. So someone that doesn't have the desires or the needs for intimacy as someone, as someone else who doesn't have a disability. So it's such an intriguing phenomenon. And then, the same kind of phenomenon happens when you become a mother. First you're a woman with, great sexual needs. And then when you give birth, you're suddenly the sole carer of this small child. And then your sexual needs are, gone out the window. You're not seen as that being anymore. But the reality is that all humans need some sort of intimacy, whether it's physical or emotional. And I think that needs to change. That is absolutely not part of mainstream media here in Australia.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about a show that I'm watching now because I watch way too much TV, Jade. But there is a girl in it who has scars on her back, but they're battle scars, basically. They are a triumph from her being abused. And so again, still though, so there's a scar here or there in TV, but not from yeah, I have this horrific, disease that my body is attacking itself. And so now I have this huge scar going down the middle of my chest because they had to go in and try to sew me back together. So I feel like we need to do something about that. But we're gonna table that for a moment because we can't change the whole world all in 1 hour. Maybe we can, but
Mm.
I want to talk about romance novels and I would love for you to share what gave you the ability and what led you to be able to explore your sexuality on paper and through your characters.
Yeah, so if you've spent any time in hospital, you know that time moves differently there. It stands still. It is excruciating. My hospital visits are anywhere between 7 and 10 days. But when I had complications from my surgery, I spent over 2 months in hospital, and that felt like an eternity. So, one of the saving graces for me was reading. As a teenager, I had my nose buried in books. I loved getting swept up in fearless adventures and, lost in the fantasy of the supernatural. So, anything with werewolves and vampires and dragons. It was my jam. I absolutely loved it. But as I got older, my taste matured and my preferences matured, and I discovered romances, but specifically erotic romances. So anything with spice, and the spicier the better. I love devouring, pages of erotic novels that focused on different types of kinks. So that's where I learnt what was out there and available because I wasn't living. I was stuck in, the hospital bed. I learned about, domination, submission, bondage. I learned about praise kinks and degradation kinks and polymorphs. I mean, the list goes on and on. There is so many kinks out there. And I loved, I could not get enough of it. And through the power of reading and through those pages, I actually learned what I like sexually and what I didn't like. And that when I was ready to step back into the real world, I knew what I was looking for and I knew what I wanted to ask for from a potential partner. So that's it, like it just somehow helped me reclaim my femininity, and helped me embrace my newly found desires. And for me, that's what inspired me to become an author. If I could provide that escapism for somebody else and help them feel good about themselves or, reclaim parts of their sexuality, then that's a dream come true for me.
I absolutely love that because it sounds like some of the confidence or the self esteem that you lacked from actual experience and from being able to put yourself out there and experiment, so to speak, you were able to gain a level of confidence by reading and learning and understanding that way what you would like and what you would be comfortable with. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I got to put myself into the shoes of the heroine and experience all these, intimacy and love and all these different kinks through their eyes. So, it just provided a safe space to do that, without any risk at all to myself. I wasn't, I couldn't physically engage in any of those acts. So for me, that's what it was about. It was about escapism, but it was about experiencing it in a safe place.
Do you feel like romance novels in general and then kink as a side are becoming more acceptable in general society?
I think so. In Australia, yes. Yeah, we've come a long way, and I think it's part of the norm. As long as it's legal and it's consenting adults, any kink is absolutely fine, and there is no shame in it. Yeah.
So let's talk about your book that we have coming out very, very shortly, Tempted by Eden. What was your inspiration?
Well, I just wanted to provide a safe space for other women to experience, escapism and make them feel good about themselves. So that was my main inspiration for writing. I actually received my books the other day, and to be able to physically hold them in your hand is such an incredible feeling. It's a pinch me moment. To see 2 years of hard work physically in your hands, it's amazing. My author journey, it was very, very quick. During one of the many COVID lockdowns we had in Australia, I um, I just had a thought one day, you know what? I think I want to write. I think I want to give this a shot. So I did. I sat down one day and started writing a story. And when I got to 10,000 words, I showed my husband and he loved it. But at the same time, he'd never read a romance before. So I couldn't exactly trust his judgment. So I Googled romance publishers, and the first one that popped up, I clicked on it and I submitted it. They came back and said that they loved it and wanted me to finish it and to send through the final manuscript. So I did, but it took 2 years because, like I said, I only write at night when I've got spare time. Um, and then when I finally sent it through, they sent me a contract. So it all happened very fast. And I know that's not the norm for the industry. So I know it's quite difficult, but I think I just got lucky.
Well, lucky and you persevered. So, what would you tell the people that want to write or are writing and maybe have sent that draft off 10, 20, 100 times?
Yeah, don't give up. Keep on going. Keep persevering because honestly, it's got to be the right time and the right place that you'll get, and your miracle will happen too. Like you will get a response eventually. Yeah.
Where do you see your path taking you? We don't want to upset your employer, but are we hoping that one day you are writing by day and night and just creating fantastic work to share with the masses?
I would absolutely love that. If I could do that, that would be amazing. I actually work for myself, so I run my own business. So if I could scale back on that, oh, that would be amazing to be able to write during the day, full time. It would be a dream come true. Yeah.
I want to hear a little bit about your process because another author that we had on the show would reward herself. I think every 20 minutes she would write, she would then eat some chocolate. I think it was chocolate. And I thought this was an amazing way to get some stuff written because I could definitely entice myself with some chocolate. But what drives you? What motivates you to get the words on the pages?
Good question. I actually eat a fair bit of chocolate as well. when I get the chance to at night, and then it's the caffeine that keeps me up all night afterwards. What motivates me? Oh, you know what? It's the characters that motivate me. It's the story that motivates me just to make it to the next step. Writing a novel is very daunting. And for me, it's just taking it one step at a time. It's the first 10,000 words, then it's the next, 10,000 words to get to 20. And then, you feel like, oh, great, I'm a quarter of the way through. So it's just taking it one small bite at a time. Um, and yeah.
When you look at where you were at 13, having just been diagnosed with a chronic illness, in and out, and at that time, mostly in the hospital, struggling to find yourself to where you are today, would you have seen this path for yourself at that 13 years old when you were struggling?
No, absolutely not. I never thought um, writing was in my future, that I could do something like that. Like I said, I was obsessed and I loved with reading, and the thought of becoming an author and giving it a go only happened during COVID. So what's that? A couple of years ago. So it's only something that's recently come to me that, you know what? I think I could do this. I think I could give this a real shot. And I'm glad that I did, because, the solace that I found within the pages of the novel, I hope that I can do that for somebody else.
What do you hope that you are showing other people, not just with Crohn's, but with chronic illness in general? What do you hope they see when they look at you and what you are accomplishing?
Yeah, if I could give advice I'll say, here's the tricky thing about a chronic illness is that it's always invisible. So nobody knows what you're going through, and the pain is always invisible. Um, And it's always there. There's no cure and there's no light at the end of the tunnel. So with that comes a huge amount of anxiety, which can lead to depression. And my advice to other people who are living with this, constant chronic pain, and this sounds very cliche, but it's to seek professional help through a counselor or through a therapist. Um, and there's no shame in asking for help. I wish I had done it a lot sooner. I've got that type of personality where I just push through and I continue working, and I never actually sit down and recognize that trauma. And here's the funny thing about trauma from illness: you cannot run from it. It will come back and bite you in the ass eventually, when you least expect it. So it takes a lot of hard work, processing trauma, and building your self-esteem and quietening that inner monologue that you have that's always about negative self-talk. It doesn't happen in one session with a therapist. It can take years. And it's hard work. You've got to be consistent. It's uncomfortable as well. Um, but in the end, it's worth it because you're worth it. And that's kind of like a funny thing, because some people don't think that they're worth it. They would rather put the time and the effort into their loved one when they're in need, rather than themselves. And that's mind blowing for me. And if I can't convince you that you're worth it, then do it for your children. Because if you've got children, or you're thinking about having children one day, do it for them, because you don't want to pass on generational trauma onto them. Like, it is so important to be able to have the help, and seek the help of a professional, because, like I said, it will come back and bite you in the ass eventually.
I love a lot of what you just said. What I really love, though, is that you brought up trauma, because so many people think that trauma is something that somebody else does to us. It's something, whether it's abuse or neglect or something like that, that occurs generally at the hands of another. And they don't think about the trauma that we go through when we deal with a chronic illness, and especially an invisible illness, like you mentioned, because nobody can see, like, we don't have a peg leg So they can't tell what's going on. They don't know anything's wrong. They don't know this burden that we're carrying around, and that's traumatic. So I'm thrilled that you said that, because I think so many people with chronic illness don't think about the fact that they've gone through trauma.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And my trauma came from um, one of my surgeries going wrong. So I ended up having um, bowel content leaking into my abdomen because the rejoin of the bowel didn't hold. So I had a severe infection and sepsis. So I ended up in ICU for a long time. And I didn't process that like it all at the time. It's all about, getting better and healing and then, learning to walk again. And, just I had a colostomy bag at that time. So that whole next year was just about surviving. And then when you come out of survivor mode, if you don't take that time and acknowledge what you've just been through, it will severely impact your mental health later on down the track.
Have you always been someone who is able to feel the self-worth and know that you're worth it and you're worth the time and energy to take the necessary steps to get better?
No, no, it's taken a long time for me to be able to get to this point. Yeah, and if I can help other people realize that a lot sooner than what I did, that would be fantastic. If I can give them advice and help them on their journey. Um, It's only taken me, what am I now, 38? So, yeah, 13 to 38 to finally come to this realization. I'm pretty slow in that department.
Well, I mean, we're laughing, but I love how earlier you said with such confidence and conviction that you are worth it, and speaking not only to yourself, but to the audience, that, well, if I can't convince you that you're worth it, what can I do? So I love that you have come from a place of probably being like most of the rest of us who are like, no, I'm dying over here. It's fine. Like, let's worry about somebody else, to being able to look all of us in the eye with confidence and say, I am worth it and you are worth it too. What has that journey been like? And what do you hope it teaches your son as he grows up?
Yeah, it was only until we had Jordan, my son, I suffered from postnatal depression afterwards for a little while. And once I got through that, I sought help for that as well. But once I got through on the other side, I realized I was actually really angry. I was an angry person and I was bitter and I didn't know why. And it all stemmed from illness, from trauma, and not getting the professional help that I needed. And it was through my husband as well. He said, you really need to start looking at yourself and getting the help that you need, because you can't have this sort of energy and anger around your son, because he's at that age now. He's, what did I say, he's just turned 5. Yeah. So he's at that impressionable age where he picks up on emotional energy. And that's when I started, when straight after I got over my postnatal depression, I sought help, and it was him that was the main motivator. It's funny, not for myself. I didn't do it for myself. I did it for him.
So it sounds like the lesson is just do it. Figure out somebody or something to do it for if it's not for you initially, and then you will get there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you got to find that motivator, because it's so hard to say, to do it for yourself. It takes time to come to that point. Now I know,
Right.
but it was my initial motivator.
You talked about, we call it postpartum depression. You call it postnatal
Right.
depression. Was that?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
you talked a little bit about having that. And as you were saying it, I was thinking, Oh my gosh, was there a minute when you were like, "Really? This too? Like, I'm not dealing with enough already, but now I get to throw this in the mix," because I know I do that a lot with whatever new symptom or illness that crops up. I'm just like, "Really? Like, was this not enough?" Did you have those moments where you were like, "Seriously? Is this actually happening to me?"
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you're already dealing with a chronic illness and you're fatigued and you're in pain, and then after giving birth, you are just tired on another level. So it just, just everything compounded together with dealing with, fatigue from a chronic illness and then not getting any sleep at all with a newborn. It just became too much and I became depressed. Because having Jordan was actually through IVF, and it took us a very long time. So that in itself was quite a journey and quite a process. And I was so happy to have him. And my emotions and my serotonin levels, they was just not at the right level where it needed to be. Yeah.
Do you find writing also to be therapeutic for you?
It is, yeah, because I can block out everything else going around me. It's my peace and quiet. It's my time to think. It's my time to, really get lost in the characters and bring them to life on the pages. So that's my chill out time. That's my me time.
Now, I know you said that your husband read your initial, I think, 10,000 words. Has he read the entire book?
Yes. Yes, yeah. You know what? I had to run a lot by him first before, publishing, because this is the thing, and this is why I write under a pen name as well, is because I don't want the people around me to think that it's my sex life with my husband, because it's not. It's pure imagination. So but he was fine with it. He absolutely loved it, and he's so proud of me, and he's very, very supportive, so I'm very lucky.
Yes, and you knew where I was going with that question because I was gonna ask, as he's reading it, is he, like, making notes on, like, what we're getting ready to try next time
Yeah.
you and he are in the bedroom?
Absolutely, he's taken it all on board.
That is fantastic. Good for him. So, you mentioned that you write under a pen name, so let's talk about how you chose your pen name because it's beautiful and, like, you look at you and you look like a jade. So, how did you land on that?
Oh, it was actually very, very simple. Jade is my favorite color, and I was born in the month of May, so Jade May. I told you, it's very, very simple.
Wow. So, I would have to be like Black March. So, that's not good. See, that's not
Oh,
good.
no, Black March is pretty good. I love it.
So I love it. That's a new way. You know how you have all those little games and like word games of like, this is your stripper name, this is your,
Yeah,
your superhero name, and so now we have this is your pen name. So it's favorite color, month of birth.
yeah.
I love this. We really are going to solve the world's problems today. I want to hear about what's next with your writing. So, we've got your book coming out in just a couple weeks. So, we're excited for that. Are you already writing the next one?
I am actually. So the second book is called Seduced by Eden, and it continues the story. So it's in the same universe as the first book. So I'm only 20K words in. Unfortunately, I know some authors just, rapid release. They push books out within 4 months. That's not me. I take my time. So I am hoping to finish, get about halfway through by the time the first book releases.
And how many books are you planning for Eden's journey?
Oh, good question. I don't know. It all just happens, when an idea strikes. I'll keep on writing for as long as I can, in the Eden world, but I'm happy to move on to, a different setting and a different universe. But if I can keep on writing for as long as I can, that would be a very happy person.
But we are going to stay in the romance arena, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, always in romance, and it's got to be spicy.
I love it. Spicy romance. Is
Yeah.
that our official title for it? Spicy romance?
Yeah.
I love it. I love it a lot. Tell me a little bit about where you are with your Crohn's. How is it being managed right now? How are you dealing with that? How is that going for you with everything else you have going on?
It's actually going really well. I'm in remission, if you will, at the moment, and it's being managed really well. So I'm on medication, so autoimmune suppressants, and that's managing at the moment. So that's basically it's an injection a week, and I take tablets, which is actually kind of like a cancer treatment as well, like a chemotherapy type of drug. So that keeps my immune system down and lowered, which is good. But on the flip side, when you have a little one that's in preschool, he brings home all the lovely germs. So I catch absolutely everything that he brings home. Um, but it is I'm in a really good place at the moment, and I'm very lucky. Yeah,
I love hearing that. And I can relate to what you're saying because I also take an immunosuppressant. So, the one I take is what they use for organ transplants. And I catch almost everything as well. But I in talking with another guest, learned that we just have to try to be positive and still not expect to catch everything and just do the things you can to hopefully avoid it. And if it happens, it happens. And with a 5-year old, it is certainly going to happen for sure.
it is. Yeah, yeah, it definitely is. And it's hard to remain positive, and to not expect it to happen. But look, it will happen with a 5-year-old when you're surrounded.
Yes, you know what? Maybe I need to go back and rewatch her episode and I'll send it to you as well because like she had a really great explanation for it because I thought I was doing great by just saying, "You know what? I just know I'm going to get sick and that's okay. I've accepted that." And she's like, "No, that's not the right attitude." And she explained it really well. So, homework for both of us. We'll go back and watch Shelby's episode and relearn or learn how we're supposed to be handling this. Well, Jade, before I let you go, I want to take a quick turn with you and talk about another obsession, one of mine and one of many people, which is tattoos or tattoos, as they say where you are, or some version of that. Now, I know that you are not sporting any tattoos, but I would love to hear about what you would get and where you would put it if you were going to get one.
I absolutely love tattoos, and the only reason why I haven't gotten one is just because I've been scared of getting an infection with a lower immune system. That's probably the only thing that was stopping me. If I was to get one, I think it would be my son's initials. I would probably put it like on the middle, on the soft part of on the side of your finger, just something small and delicate. Um, my son, yeah, is it means he means the absolute world to me. And like I said, it was quite a journey through IVF to have him. So he would be something that I would be proud to have inked on my body.
Now, if one day, like 13 years from now, he comes home with a tattoo, how are we going to feel about that?
Oh, fine, absolutely. He can get as many as he wants.
And there are some good shops over there around you. So,
Yes, so
okay.
I've heard. Yeah, I'm pretty sure is Bondi Ink still running? Yes, it
As
is.
far as
Yeah,
I know, it is.
yeah,
And they were a great TV show as well.
yeah.
Well, Jade, where can people find you? So, if they want to grab your book, either now, pre order it, or grab it once it releases in a couple weeks. If they want to learn a little bit more about Crohn's from you, or if they want to escort you to Bondi to get your first tattoo, where can they find you?
Just on my website, so authorjademay.com. I'll probably put all the links up there. I'm also doing a Live Fearless challenge for the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation for Australia. So I will be doing some form of exercise, about 5Ks a day, so 150 for the month of September, which is a huge and daunting task ahead, especially for someone with a chronic illness. But that's the whole purpose, and the whole point is to live fearless and to go for it. So I will put up a link for that as well if anyone would be interested in supporting and donating. I know the cost of living is extremely high at the moment in Sydney, in Australia, and I'm sure it's the same there with interest rates rising and the rent is through the roof. But if anyone can donate, even if it's just $1, that would be a huge help to the Crohn's and Colitis Australia. I don't think we'll get a cure in my lifetime, but hopefully for the next generation.
Absolutely love that. So, yes, definitely share that link on your website. We'll share it here as well for everybody. Jade, you have been truly amazing. I really appreciate your time in sharing about everything that you've gone through with Crohn's and how you turned that into your love for some spicy romance. So, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Claudia.
If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and follow us on social media so you'll never miss what's going on. Remember, until next week, you are strong enough, you are worth it. Thank you for listening to the Strong Enough podcast. You can find us on your favorite podcast platform by searching Strong Enough. And on YouTube, we're on the Spear Talk channel. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Strong Enough Pod. If you have suggestions for an upcoming episode or a future guest, please reach out at strongenoughpod@gmail.com. Remember, you are worth it.